The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
It's so hard not to micromanage. You always want to compare it to what you might have done or the play I might have called. You got to put the importance in perspective. At the end of the day, you got to trust your assistants and let them work. Have confidence in the work that they put in. We've won championships doing it this way.
Welcome to National Coach of the Week, presented by Modern Football Technology. Trusted by top programs nationwide to turn real-time data into winning decisions. This week's honoree is a Texas legend, Reginald Samples, head coach of the Duncanville Panthers. Coach Samples has built one of the premier programs in America. He's one of the winningest head coaches in Texas high school football history, with more than 325 career victories, a 2022 state championship, and recognition as the Max Preps National High School Coach of the Year. From his early success at Lincoln and Skyline to transforming Duncanville into a perennial power, his teams are defined by discipline, toughness, and pride. And this past weekend, Duncanville once again proved why they're the standard, delivering a statement win over powerhouse DeSoto in one of the most anticipated matchups in the country. For his leadership, consistency, and impact on generations of Texas players and coaches, Reginald Samples is our National Coach of the Week. We're back for another episode of our National Coach of the Week show. And joining us today from Texas is the head coach at Duncanville High School, Reginald Samples. Coach Samples, great to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Really looking forward to talking to you guys. I like to talk to coaches nationally rather than just in this little box in Texas.
That's great, Coach, because that's the kind of audience we have, and we certainly feel privileged to have you here. I've been following what you do for a while now. You guys run an excellent program at Duncanville, ultra-competitive schedule. The teams that you play, you knocked off a big one this past week in DeSoto, and the season continues on here, and it just doesn't get easier as you roll through the second half of the season, get towards the playoffs, and keep going. But I know, before we get into it, I'm sure you want to recognize the collective effort of your coaches and your players here in this past week's win.
Well, of course, the DeSoto game is a big rivalry for us. For people who don't know, the schools are only I'd probably say about 6 miles apart. The kids have competed against each other in Little League, junior high, all the way up. So they're very familiar. And aside by that, both schools are always ranked in the top 4 or 5 in state and nationally ranked. So it's a big deal for us to win this game. It's normally the game for the district championship. And I just have to commend our staff and our players because they really rose to the occasion. It was a back and forth game. We went in at halftime only leading by a touchdown, and we came out and scored 3 times in a row consecutively after the half. And I just think that's a testament to the adjustments that were made at halftime and just revving our kids up to meet the challenge because we knew that they were going to come out at the half and really put their best foot forward.
Coach, before we got going, you talked about the intensity that you're able to build into what you do all week long to prepare for a game. And certainly that kind of intensity is something you need to bring into these big games. And like I said, week in and week out playing ball in Texas, but something you call situations and the focus that you put on it all week long. We'd love to hear you talk about that and share that with our listeners.
Well, one of the things, we get a lot of requests from coaches out of the state and some of the ones in the state just about coming and trying to observe what we do or what we think really helps us in our competitive level. And I'm a big believer in you play like you practice. So I'm all over our practice routine. The one thing I do as a head coach, I don't coach either side of the ball. I'm more of an administrator. And my biggest deal is making sure that our practice routine represents the competitive level that we want to exhibit out on the field. So by doing that, normally our first day of the week is all scout, where we're going over, lining up against the other team, being able to pick up their blitzes, things that we picked up just from our scouting. But from Tuesday all the way to Thursday, we interject what we call situation. And situation is basically highlighted by our first defense versus our first offense. We call it good on good, best on best. And there's always a level or there's always a number that we're trying to get to. It shows that one side of the ball wins. Normally, our situations involve our 2-minute sessions. We'll give the offense 1 minute and 29 seconds from the own 30, one timeout each. And we'll let them go to see if they can score within a minute and have our defense to stop it. We'll also do our goal line situation where we'll put the ball on the 5-yard line, give the offense 2 plays from the 5. And on something like that, we do 2 out of 3. So if the offense gets stopped 2 out of 3 times, it's done. If they get stopped the first 2 times, that's it. If it's 1-1, they break the tie. And it really becomes a 3-ring circus because guys are screaming and, we make a big deal out of who wins these sessions. Another session that we'll have is we'll just do first down situations. We'll say it's 1st and 10, and we're running plays trying to move the sticks. We'll have the sticks out there. We'll have kids on the down markers, and we're moving the ball trying to get first down. It really helps our offense and defensive coordinators and staff defend situations that may come up. 3rd and short, 3rd and long. So we work on that. But more than that, we are on our kids about competing. When we get down the goal line and it's 1 yard, it's going crazy on the field because the coaches are screaming at each other about they can't run the ball in or they better pass. And then the offense is screaming about we're going to punch it in. But those are the situations you get to in the game. We don't want to wait until Friday night and then try to make our kids understand how important it is scoring in the red zone. We do it against each other, and we really place big emphasis on being successful in those areas. And a lot of coaches, they come out and they watch it, and they are really amazed by the excitement that's generated when we put that in. Our kids normally don't get to look at our practice schedule, and we normally put it right about halfway at the beginning of our schedule. Sometimes I'll put it toward the end just to rile the kids up. Because if we go too long without situation, they're screaming at me about, what the hell's going on? When are we getting into this session? And I love it because it just shows me that they're motivated to compete.
Yeah, great stuff. Now, are those full go, full contact periods?
We thud up. One of the things that I'll tell you something else, and I don't know how long, but we have trained our kids to thud up at a maximum level without putting anybody on the ground. We don't twist them. We don't pile. But that initial guy, if we're running a counter and a kick-out block and he's leading up, that linebacker's going to smack him in the hole. But it's all pad on pad. All year long, we very seldom get anybody hurt in these sessions because that's something else we really preach is taking care of your teammate. But we don't want it to be one of those situations where, and we have our young coaches referee. We don't want it to be a doubt as to whether the guy got put on the ground or not. We want a good high form tackle, but don't twist anybody and don't put anybody on the ground.
Yeah, that's important stuff. When every snap counts, you can't afford to guess. Modern football technology gives you real-time data right from the sidelines so you can see what's working, fix what's not, and make better calls when the game's on the line. Trusted by top programs across the country, Modern Football helps coaches bridge the gap between film and field with instant analytics, live self-scout, and post-game efficiency reports. It's the perfect tool for the playoff push. Quick to onboard, easy to use, and built by coaches who understand what winning takes. Visit modernfootball.com to schedule a quick demo and see why more staffs are turning data into their competitive edge. Coach, you mentioned now the role you've taken on as the head coach is being an administrator, being the guy who is staying on top of that energy, staying on top of guys being focused on the different things they have to do on either side of the ball. In your head coaching career, did you move to doing that rather than, calling one side of the ball or other as well?
Well, I started out being an offensive coordinator, and I started out it's probably the middle of the road or a little above our 4A schools. And, there wasn't a lot of other things administrative that needed to be done. And as I moved, I went from a 4A to a 5A school. Now we have almost 5,000 kids, 4,700 in our school. There are so many other things like personnel, just so many other things that come about that are more, and it's hard to believe, but just as important or more important for me than calling play. So I realized that it wasn't one of those things I decided I needed to do. I was forced to do it because I found myself, getting caught up with play calling. And I found out that there were so many other things that were going on that was almost causing us to lose ball games that I had to take myself out of the play calling and manage the program. Just little things like whether we're going to use a pooch field goal kicker or a field goal kicker who is more accurate in kicking the ball deep. Whether we're going to use we had a big-time running back, sophomore, that had offers on our offense, but we had one of our cornerbacks to go down hurt, and somebody had to make a decision as to whether we move this guy to play corner or leave him at running back. Well, it was a big decision, and it had to be made from the top down. So I had so many of those situations that called for me to be an administrator and not a coordinator. And that's really helped us in our program become more consistent because I wouldn't want to leave that decision to one of my assistant coaches.
How difficult was that for you, especially when you first did it, to let go of those play calling duties? I know I've experienced it as a head coach and in trying to step away. I've had head coaches I've worked through stepped away to give me, the reins of the offense. And there's, I think being able to guide versus micromanage. You don't want to micromanage your OC, but
I'm just sitting here waiting to say that because after you've done it, it's so hard not to micromanage because you always want to compare it to what you might have done or the play I might have called. But at the end of the day, you got to put the importance in perspective. And at the end of the day, you've got to trust your assistants and let them work and have confidence in the work that they put in. I can say it was hard, but we've won championships doing it this way. And I think that reinforces the decision that I've made because, before I've only won state championship since I've been the administrator. I didn't win one as a coordinator.
Yeah, in our very first show we did last year for National Coach of the Week, we had Kyle Schmidt on from Archbishop Spalding in Maryland in similar situation. And we talked about how for him, I think as a head coach, when you're still doing, you're stepping away from it, you still have that focus on your side of the ball. But then you realize, as you get into these other things, I can really make a big impact in all these other areas, whether it's understanding overall the analytics of the game and what's happening, what's going on, maybe being able to understand a little bit more and get involved in special teams and just the overall flow of the game that you manage, which is much different than wearing that coordinator hat.
You're exactly right. And that's basically been the importance of it because I don't have to be pressured with looking for one play. I can be more into the flow of the game and I can be more useful to my coordinators by letting them know the flow that I see. And I've done it so long that now it allows me to use when I was a coordinator to help them on some things that they need to know other than play calling.
Yeah, Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time to give us that insight. And while we didn't spend a ton of time here talking about ball, I think the insight you gave in just this short period, I think is very helpful to coaches out there. And congratulations again to you and your staff and your players on being honored as our National Coach of the Week. And we look forward to talking to you again, maybe in the off season, and good luck to you and the Panthers.
Man, I appreciate it. And anytime I can help, man, I'm a coach's guy. Everything that I've learned, I stole from someone. So when I can put some things out there to help some coaches, I'm always happy to do it.
The National Coach of the Week is presented by Modern Football Technology, where smarter decisions start on the sideline. If you're ready to make analytics your advantage, visit modernfootball.com today. Get set up in days, not weeks, and control your team's data before your next kickoff. Because in the moments that define your season, Modern Football helps you see what matters most.